Hi, Lisa Maricosis, founder of Global One Health. In my previous videos, I addressed the topic of breathing. And while there's so many aspects of training that I could address, thousands of exercises to talk about form and technique, I opted to start with breathing as I think it's probably the most important foundational basic thing we can talk about when it comes to movement and everyday life, how we feel, our posture, and our ability to activate our core structure. So that's why I kind of started this whole video process with the topic of breathing. In the very first video, I went into full detail about the anatomical structure of the core, how to activate the core with breathing. I gave 2 basic exercises to practice. You can do them anywhere, anytime during your day. I highly recommend doing so. The better activation that you have of your core, the more awareness of your breathing, the more that you can channel in and hone that awareness and that ability to strengthen your core and learn how to integrate it with other more complicated exercises and more advanced movements. Today, I also want to take that a little bit further, and I want to talk about how the core relates to the foot structure. I recently did my barefoot certification with Dr. Emily Splickle, and it's a foot certification, and I walked away with a lot of valuable information. But probably the biggest takeaway were her foot core sequencing drills. Now, they're done by themselves, but you can also want to do them and should also do them integrated with any exercise. We're just going to talk about the basic drills in today's video, but I do want you to think about how to integrate that into your gait, which is walking. You can practice the drills sitting, standing, lying down. Today I'll do them lying down, which is the most basic position to learn them in without the gravitational compression on the spine. So you are in a fully supported position on the back, and we'll get to that in a minute. Quick little review of the core structure in case you didn't see the first video. I'm not going to get into nearly as much detail as I did in that one, so please, if you can refer back to that. I think everybody should know what their core structure is. If you have a basic understanding of certain anatomy and anatomical structures, your brain has a little bit different way of looking at them, and you can integrate them, I think, more deeply into your movement. So, quick review, I referred to the core as a soup can. The top lid is the diaphragm. It's very important that you know what that is when we're referencing diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, so diaphragm, primary breathing muscle, one of your core muscles. The transverse abdominis, abdominal wall, wraps 360. That is the circumference of the trunk, and that is the largest, probably of all of the core muscles, it is the largest. And the bottom lid is your pelvic floor, which is very important. It is how you initiate core activation. The core starts at the base, and that is your pelvic floor. Therefore, in my opinion, you need to know what the pelvic floor is. So I referenced the pelvic clock in the first video, so we're just going to quickly remind you of the 4 points of the pelvic floor. The pubic bone is in the front. The 2 sit bones that you feel in your butt when you're sitting up, especially on a more firm chair, are the 3 and 9 points. Your tailbone is the base of the spine and the back point of that pelvic floor diamond. So we're going to refer to that pelvic clock. We're also, as I mentioned, going to involve the foot structure today. So just to hold at my foot, I'm going to reference the term used by Dr. Emily, but I've heard it in other certifications and courses, as well as the tripod of the foot. So tri meaning 3. You want to think of the ball joint of the base of the first toe, the big toe, your first digit. That could be the first point. The second point on the opposite lateral side of your foot, under the base of the pinky toe, is point 2. And the third point is just a little bit forward of the back edge of your heel, a little bit more in that squishy part of your heel pad. Those 3 points make up the tripod of the foot. So when you're putting your foot down, ideally you don't just want to think that your foot is just kind of on the ground. You want to think about actively pressing those toe structures, or those foot structures to be more specific, into the ground actively. So I'm going to get into the position on the back, and I'm going to talk about these foot core sequencing drills right now. So what you want to do is first always, it's breathing and activation of the core. And then I'll get to in the end why I think this is extremely important that you do these drills. So first thing we do, we breathe in. Now at this point, I'm lying on the floor. My legs are bent. Feet and legs are parallel to each other. I'm just first thinking about that tripod of the foot structure and pressing them a little bit firmly into the ground to feel the connection of my feet to the ground. Everything else is relaxed. First thing I do, I take a nice breath in. And as I inhale, you'll see my belly wall inflate. I'm activating my diaphragm. It's moving down so my lungs can get oxygen into the body. And then as I exhale, first thing I engage is my pelvic floor. Remember, it's the base of the core. You have to start from the base. I exhale, engage my pelvic floor. I pull my 12, 6, 3, 9 points together. I keep that engaged. I tighten my abdominals in, and now I press my toes down. So the tripod of the foot is the ball heel structure. The sequence drill involves now pressing all 10 toes into the ground. I'm not clenching my feet. I don't want to curl my toes. I want to keep my feet flat and simply think about pressing the toes gently into the floor. I'm also not clenching for dear life. Dr. Emily says when doing the drills, you're going for about 30% activation of the muscle structure. So it's not a brace for dear life. We're not powerlifting and under heavy load. So repeat, inhale belly. Exhale, you'll see the belly inflate. Exhale, engage the pelvic floor. I'm pulling 12, 6, 3, 9 points together. I keep them engaged. I tighten my abdominal wall. You'll see it go in. I'm bracing, creating intra-abdominal pressure. I add my toes. It must be done in that sequential order. So inhale belly one more time. Belly inflates. Exhale, I engage my pelvic floor. I tighten my abdominal wall, and I gently press my 10 toes into the floor. So that is the basic drill. I came up with an acronym to help remember. PAT, exhale, engage your pelvic floor, your abs, and your toes. Just 30% activation. Now the goal of, or the reason why you want to do these drills is you'll find if you've done Pilates or you're squatting or so many different movements, animal flow, once you start doing more advanced exercises, there's always so much to think about. So if your core is not already able to turn on in a split second, you're possibly not going to get the maximum efficiency of movement in any given exercise if you already don't have the core working instinctively. So I think the brilliant thing about her drills is that you can do them by themselves, anywhere, anytime, any place, any position. Again, on the back, sitting, standing. The more you practice the drills by themselves, you're training them to become subconscious and happen in a much faster time span rather than as we do when we're practicing the drills alone. We want to consciously be thinking about how am I breathing, activating my pelvic floor, activating my abdominal wall, pressing my toes, feeling that connection to the ground and awareness of breath. You ideally want to be able to do that literally in a half a second. Especially if you're under load, you want to be able to have it engaging immediately. So practice the drills, 30% activation. And then the reason why you want to do them alone is to improve the sequential patterning so that not just you can do them faster so that you can get more efficient at them. So, and thinking about them consciously, and that's such an important component that I was just referencing a few minutes ago, is you want to be consciously thinking about what you're doing and involving the brain, which is your central nervous system. That is so critically important because when your brain is actively thinking and consciously thinking about what you're doing, you have a little bit better control and command and awareness of what you're doing at that moment. So it's the integration of the brain, the central nervous system, talking to and communicating with your core, which is your center of gravity. It is how you stay stable when you're standing, and how your core and brain talk to and communicate with your foot structure, which when you're standing is critically important because if you have a weak foot structure or feel in any way unstable on your feet, especially it's a concern for older people, risk of falling. If you don't have a good connection of your foot and how your foot connects to the ground, you may not be as potentially stable as you could be on your feet. And that becomes critically important when under load, when in an unstable base, say you're hiking, or just an older person just trying to walk down the street and doesn't feel stable. So I highly recommend these drills, which is why I'm taking the time to address them and to teach them. Please practice them, and you're going to enhance your awareness and your connection of your brain to your core, to your foot structure. And if you notice, the head and the feet are the furthest things away from each other. So you're getting complete integration through the nervous system and through the basic structures, head, core, and foot in the body. I think if I didn't mention, my website is globalOneHealth.com.